Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We have a liftoff.
Two Doomed Men Podcast, the greatest, ready? The greatest podcast in the history of the country, perhaps even the world by far. I don't think anyone comes close.
What's up, Doom Nation, and welcome back. You are listening to the Two Doom Men podcast. As always, it's Scagz and yours truly, the captain, and we got another episode, and Scagz has a little bit of news for all the listeners. Don't you, bud?
I don't know. I do. You're throwing me for a loop here. What besides the normal stuff, or something else that's special? I got Poison Ivy for the third time this summer. That's fucking fun. We got.
Want to plug our live?
Okay.
Yeah, literally the top of your notes.
Yeah. So in 2 weeks, the captain and I will be live streaming the first debate between Trump and Kamala Harris, meaning we will just be carrying the debate live on our own channel. We'll be in the background doing our screen share thing, and you can watch the debate on our channel and hear our commentary in the background. We will comment. We will try not to comment too much where we're talking over the candidates in the debate. Like, we'll obviously wait for a few moments where perhaps there's a little silence or like even a commercial break. I'm not sure if they're going to do that. But, you know, if you are one of the people like us who are annoyed by the fact that it seems to be only the corporate press channels that host the debates, then don't watch the debate on the corporate press channel, right? Like, if we watch it on our thing, that's just 1+1 in the ratings for them, and then everybody watches it on our channel or other channels doing the same thing, then independent news gets all the ratings from it and not the corporate press channel. So that's like one way to kind of give the middle finger to these big
stick it to the man.
Yeah, yes. It's like a very easy way you can not participate in their scam and still watch, and you get to hear our commentary, which is pretty cool.
Exactly. And
so
didn't like last time? Yeah. Oh, go ahead. Set up.
I was going to say, so that will be on September 10th. The debate starts at 9 p.m. Eastern time. We'll probably be going live around 8:50. Get 10 minutes of us chatting before, and then we'll be carrying the debate live, like I was saying.
Didn't on the first debate between Biden and Trump, they were trying to say people are not allowed to stream it or something?
They did, and they failed. Yeah. There's no way they could stop everybody from doing it. I haven't seen that so far this time around, but we're going to do it anyway. Fuck them.
Yeah. Hey, if they stop us from streaming, then we have an even more interesting episode to talk about.
Yeah, there you go. But tonight we'll be reading the news, as they say.
Yes.
It was one of those weeks, Cap, me and you were talking before. It feels like
Eerie.
a lot of stuff happened, but it felt like nothing happened.
Yeah.
And I think that's because no one got like their head almost blown off. There was no coup
no
d'etats,
coups. Yeah.
no nukes were dropped in the Middle East or anything like that. So it felt empty, but it wasn't. So we're going to talk about a couple of things that occurred. We'll briefly touch on Robert F. Kennedy Jr. endorsed Trump last Friday. The main topic, I think, one of the main topics will be JD Vance and the Trump administration's position on abortion and kind of the Democrats' game plan with the abortion thing, which I think is far more interesting. Even
Just lie.
Yeah. We promised you we'd update you on the Trump assassination attempt. So there has been an update, which has gone completely under the radar today. The FBI putting out a statement on the whole thing, on a kind of an update on their investigation that they're doing. And finally, I thought we could touch on something near and dear to Captain and I's hearts that has hurt our podcast very much so over the course of the years. Censorship, pertaining to Mark Zuckerberg, Facebook. He admitted outright kind of what they did during the COVID regime at the behest of the Biden-Harris administration. So we'll touch on that at the end. Let's start off with RFK Jr.
Yes.
You want to watch the video, or do you want to get into your?
Well, last Friday he endorsed Trump. In my little world, in my corner of the world, this is what, everybody who talks to me about politics, this is what they wanted to talk about. So I felt like it was a bit relevant. We'll watch the video because, this is WWE theatrics of RFK coming out. I don't know if you guys, whoever's watching this live, has seen this or not, but this is just pure sports entertainment.
Highly respected. He is a great person. I've known him for so long. For the past 16 months, Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
See if YouTube strikes us for hearing this in the background.
The fireworks, the sparks. There goes my hero. This is WrestleMania level theatrics. The crowd screaming. I don't believe anything anymore, to be honest with you. All the screaming at the little, Kamala appearances. This with the fireworks. It's a big movie that we're watching now.
Seemed that way. Don't forget, man, Trump was in WWF at the time. He was feuding with Vince McMahon.
I forget. Oh, man, it had to be before WrestleMania 20. He was at WrestleMania 20 when I was there, but there was a hair match, and it was Trump's wrestler, and I forget who it was, versus Vince McMahon's wrestler, and whoever loses got their head shaved, and Trump's guy won, and they shaved Vince McMahon's head, which was amazing.
Good times, man. Great old days.
Yeah,
amazing.
The Attitude Era. Two Do Men will have a little wrestling surprise for all of you fans out there coming soon enough.
Up in the next couple months.
Yeah,
I like it, man. I like it. I like RFK, Tulsi Gabbard joining the crew over there.
Yes.
I have my disagreements with RFK, of course. He's got his shortcomings. Right. I like the idea of anti-establishment types bonding together in the face of the regime. That doesn't mean they're all perfect, right? They're not.
Right.
But I like it. I thought RFK's speech and how he announced it was fucking nothing short of heroic, to be honest with you.
I don't disagree. I just can't stand listening to that man talk. It's like nails on a chalkboard to me. I know he's got a problem with his voice, but it's hard for me to sit there and listen to that. Just there was a funny meme because it'll tie in with Mark Zuckerberg I saw, and it was a picture of Trump cloaked, and Elon and Tulsi and RFK were standing behind him, and in front of him was Mark Zuckerberg with the Meta letter, and it was like, "Come join me." Trump is building this team of ex-Democrats. And I think it's interesting. Like I said, in my little corner of the world, everybody's been trying to talk to me about RFK. And I love the fact that he is solely doing this to screw over Kamala Harris, which is just beautiful. But my problem is, and somebody that I followed since the Q days had brought this up, and then he completely like turned on a dime, and I'll read it in a moment. But just a month ago, RFK was saying how him and Trump couldn't be any further apart on policies and stuff like this. And now this thunderous applause with fireworks and all for endorsing him. And I get it, you're being buttered up and stuff, but Trump's had bad people in his camp before. I don't understand why. I don't think RFK is an untrustworthy guy, but I don't understand why we're looking to all these people who, JD Vance, one of them too, who was just like a Trump hater, and now they're all, up his behind and around the corner, loving him. How can we trust this going down the road? Because there's been so many things. One of the biggest criticisms of Trump's first tenure in office was he put bad people in the wrong in these positions in his cabinet, and he just came out and he admitted it, and kudos to him. But I don't want that shit to happen again, and there's things I agree with RFK, the whole idea of throwing the fatties in jail and getting rid of processed foods and stuff like that, and becoming a healthier nation. 100% behind him on that. But he was, he had some other things that, what was he? He wasn't pro-vax. He was pro-lockdown, right? Something like that.
Yeah, I guess you could say to a certain extent.
Yeah.
His position on guns has been sketchy.
Yeah. So, I don't want, I just told you a story of what I'm going through with the pistol permit here. I don't want anybody else in power that has a sketchy past on the Second Amendment,
Yeah,
so
I agree.
How do you feel? I know you think the situation was heroic speech, and I get that, and it was a great speech. How do you feel about this guy who just a month ago was not a Trump supporter becoming the, what, apple in his eye? How do you say that term?
Yeah, the apple of his eye. Well,
yeah.
How do I feel about it just a month ago? A lot has changed in 1 month, Captain. A lot of things have occurred. A coup, an assassination attempt. Escalation of wars around the world. So I get why Bobby would do such a thing. I thought his speech was heroic because he chose the moment that he decided to say he was endorsing Trump to then go on like a 10-minute rant about the war in Ukraine and explain correctly at detail. And there was no coincidence that he did that at the exact moment he also said he was endorsing Trump. This way, whoever was carrying it on the corporate news or whatever could clip it, and you could maybe get a really good explanation of why the war or the United States meddling in Ukraine is not a good idea. So I thought that was well. Look, man, when it comes to Trump and his cabinet, it's one of my biggest criticism of him first time around. Also, he picked all neocon warmongers, losers, deep state types. The people he's putting in there now are much better. They're not perfect, not libertarians. He's promised to put the libertarian. I still don't know who that is. We haven't heard at all.
I know you're still praying for Scott Horton.
Right, but look, man, it's like I'll take any day Tulsi Gabbard over John Bolton and RFK over Bill Barr or any of those types of guys. It's a tremendous improvement. I'm not an autistic libertarian who wants to purity spiral, and it's either everything is exactly perfect or I don't like anything at all. No, this is much better. So I'm happy with the direction Trump's moving. Even we'll get into JD Vance here in a second. In my opinion, at least for me, my stock in Vance is rising. I like him a little bit more every time I see him in one of these scenarios like we're seeing him today. He actually is. He was like a lukewarm pick for me at the beginning, but I'm like, this guy actually is pretty good at going over to like corporate press channels. I think not giving in, not doing what normally happens when Republicans go on those things.
I think he has a great, I want to say like smash mount like tactic in like for dealing with the press. He's not going to take the press laying down.
Yeah, that moment when he went to when he landed on the same tarmac as Kamala Harris, and he went over to the plane. He's like, "Hey, so my plane going to be my plane soon." And then he actually,
if you don't want to talk to you guys, I'll come talk.
Yeah, he actually took the opportunity to take questions and talk to the press. That's that's what you should be doing. Pointing out how awful she is and how the whole thing is fake, a farce, it's rigged, it's all installed. So let's get into him, man. That was a good segue into JD Vance. I saw this. I posted it on our channels the other day. He did a Meet the Press interview the other day, and they asked him kind of about abortion, something me and you haven't talked about in a while. We haven't really focused on, but we have in the past, when Roe vs. Wade was overturned, things like that. So they asked Vance about abortion. I thought this was interesting. Let's hear what they have to say, and then we'll give our comments after.
Let's talk about another big issue. It's talked about at the Democratic National Convention. It's being talked about on the campaign trail. Abortion. Sure. Democrats made the case this week and beyond this week that Donald Trump, if elected, will impose a federal ban on abortion if he wins. Now, Donald Trump says he won't, but can you commit, Senator, sitting right here with me today, that if you and Donald Trump are elected, that you will not impose a federal ban on abortion?
I can absolutely commit that, Kristen. And Donald Trump has been as clear about that as possible. I think it's important to step back and say, what has Donald Trump actually said on the abortion question, and how is it different from what Kamala Harris and the Democrats have said? Donald Trump wants to end this culture war over this particular topic. If California wants to have a different abortion policy from Ohio, then Ohio has to respect California and California has to respect Ohio. Donald Trump's view is that we want the individual states and their individual cultures and their unique political sensibilities to make these decisions, because we don't want to have a nonstop federal conflict over this issue. The federal government ought to be focused on getting food prices down, getting housing prices down, issues, of course, where Kamala Harris has been a total disaster. So I think Donald Trump is right. We want the federal government to focus on these big economic and immigration questions. Let the states figure out their own abortion policy.
Let me just follow up with you a little bit on that point, because I've been talking to Republicans, including Senator Lindsey Graham just last week, who've made it very clear that if Donald Trump is elected, if you are elected, they will continue to press this point. Senator Graham said to me, I'm going to keep saying that there should be a federal ban. If such a piece of legislation landed on Donald Trump's desk, would he veto it?
Well, I think it'd be very clear he would not support it. I mean, he said that explicitly. Yeah, I mean, if you're not supporting it as the president of the United States, you fundamentally have to veto it.
So he would veto a federal abortion ban?
I think he would. He said that explicitly that he would. And
I don't think he's ever said explicitly he would. He said that to you?
Lindsey Graham, Kristen, I would be surprised. I mean, again, I need to see the context on what Lindsey Graham said, because Lindsey Graham himself has not advocated a federal abortion ban. Lindsey Graham has advocated a federal minimum standard. Now, to be clear, that is not Donald Trump's view. Donald Trump disagrees with Lindsey Graham on this, but no Republican, at least no Republican with any reasonable power, is saying that we should have a complete national abortion ban. I haven't heard that from any of my colleagues. And to be clear, Donald Trump, I think, has staked his position and made it very explicit. He wants this to be a state decision. States are going to make this determination themselves.
All right, let's talk.
A lot there, man. But that was interesting, in my opinion.
Yeah, it continuously. I'm almost ashamed and disappointed in myself that it still bothers me to this level, that we know the media at this point knows the media is lying. They come out and they, this is such an important topic for the left, because this is the only strong policy point Kamala Harris actually has, that she is going to have abortion across the board, kill all the babies, huzzah. And the media, and every time you hear one of these talking figureheads, they talk about this federal ban that Donald Trump is going to impose. And he has constantly corrected people and said it is not going to be a federal ban. And I mean, we're 19 minutes in. Can I start cursing? Because these corrupt fucks just can't fathom the idea of the federal government losing a single iota of power, especially when it comes to killing babies, because that's the most important thing Americans can do, is kill babies. So, hooray America for that. It blows, he wants it to go to the states. The problem that people have with it going to the states is, California and New York and Michigan, you're going to have abortion up to 9 months to 9 months after the birth. It doesn't matter. Whereas in Alabama and like Oklahoma, they'll probably outright ban it all around. Okay, we are allowed to, Oklahoma respects New York and California, but New York and California, as a liberal state, can't leave well enough alone, and they'll never respect Alabama and Oklahoma. That's why this fight must continue. And on top of it, for all these reporters to ask Republicans, and Lindsey Graham of all people you're getting statement from, is, you remember like last week when Trump brought up the Boeing deal that Obama made, and Trump was like, "Oh, well, then I know it's a bad deal." If you're going to hit me with Lindsey Graham quotes, then I know they're bad quotes. Yeah. Okay. No Republican in their right mind is going to touch this with a 10,000 foot pole. You would lose your political career unless you're in one of these hardcore Bible Belt red states. Yeah.
Speaking of Lindsey Graham, I think that's interesting. I think there's more there than meets the eye.
You got something from Lindsey?
Speaking of Mike Pence, Lindsey Graham, I'd say similar type of guys, establishment, deep state, warmongering, neocon types. Mike Pence as well has been, no coincidence, has been singing the praises of a lot of the of Lila Rose, who's kind of like a pro-life advocate, who's been, really hitting Trump and Vance hard on this position. Now, this is a weird topic because I agree. I do actually think it should be illegal federally, but I understand what's going on here and kind of what's at stake in general.
Yeah.
But speaking of Lindsey Graham and guys like Mike Pence, it's like weird that they're so focused on making sure that they are like a thorn in the side on this issue. And I think it's because it is a culture war issue at the end of the day. I'm not saying it's not important. That's not what I'm saying at all. It's very important, but it is a culture war issue. And they love the culture war issues, guys like Lindsey Graham and Mike Pence, because that pivots and distracts away from a lot of the most important things like
World War III
and military-industrial complex and the empire and the economy, all things that those guys suck on, and they are explicitly making their bones on. Graham is like the worst warmonger ever. Mike Pence is awful as well. So I think there's more to this than meets the eye. Like I'm not saying I don't even think that Lindsey Graham. I mean, first of all, Lindsey Graham doesn't even have any kids, right? No. Second of all, he is advocating for fucking war all the time. He's the worst of all time. He's putting us at risk of nuclear war every single day, Lindsey Graham. But he cares about abortion, right? He cares about innocent babies in the womb. So, like, square that circle. That makes no sense to me. Those two things can't reconcile. So I'm completely dismissing him. Mike Pence, on the other hand, I could see Mike Pence caring about abortion, right, and justifying it to himself why there should be war all around the world or something like that. But I think that's why. I think Trump has now kind of identified that, and he's decided, along with Vance and a lot of the administration, like, okay, we're not going to like play into the Democrat hand of making this a culture war thing. And they can keep saying as much as they want. Hey, he wants to ban it federally. Yeah. Hey, he wants to.
You just look stupid.
And he just keeps saying no. He never has actually said that, right? And he just keeps playing it off. No, that's not what we're saying. No, gives good answers like JD Vance said. It reminds me of right before the Battle of the Bastards. Sansa Stark tells Jon Snow, look, whatever Ramsay Bolton wants you to do, just don't do what he wants you to do. It reminds me of that, right? That's what Trump's doing. Yeah. He's not playing into what the Democrats want him to do, which is make this a culture war thing. Because then, yes, they're going to spin around and be like, you see, he wants to control women's reproductive rights and use all their gaslighting, bullshit rhetoric around it. And it'll work, in my opinion. It'll work. So it's not perfect. I do think it should be illegal. But moving it back to the states is Donald Trump's position. Yeah. And it's way better than nothing at all. It actually would be ironic if Donald Trump is able to move the Overton window back towards decentralization on this particular issue. Like if this culture war issue is going to be good for anything, and we're not going to ban the insane practice and change the culture, how it has become insane, like you're saying before. Some people are so concerned about this. It's their top issue.
Yeah.
For them.
Killing babies is their top
issue. So if Trump is to use that to push the Overton window back towards decentralization, that's interesting in of itself. And I'd be okay with playing gamesmanship around using this like gamesmanship wise around that. Go ahead.
Right. Could you imagine it's November 5th, 2024, hundreds of Ukraine soldiers are dying. Russia is ready to drop nukes. The American dollar is almost valueless. 3 days worth of groceries, forget 7 days worth of groceries, is $500. You're never buying a house. You're never going to make a livable wage again. And you show up to vote because you want to make sure not that World War III doesn't start, but that you can kill babies.
It's crazy. It really is a crazy thought. That is a priority for some folks. And to be fair, they've been like psyoped, and the culture has shifted that way that it is very important to them. They'll frame it. They're not thinking of it the way that you're framing it, Cap. They're thinking of it in terms of like hands off my body, women's reproductive rights, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. What's ironic about that, which we've covered ad nauseum on the show the past couple of years, is those same people supported vaccine mandates.
Yeah.
So it's a double standard that they have even amongst themselves. But shows how
these people are retarded,
or they've been conned, coerced, co-opted into believing it. So it really is crazy, man. Like there are a lot more pressing concerns right now in the world than being able to kill a baby. And I think that kind of I hate to even say it this way, but that swings both ways. All right. Like we could sort this out later, but if we all get nuked to death, then it doesn't even matter what.
There's no babies left to kill. Yeah.
Right. So I will, although I don't agree with it being legal anywhere, I do think that Trump and Vance have probably the most realistic position on this. Let's put our names away here. This will be one of my tweets of the week, but I want to pull it out early. What happened here? What happened there?
You had the other screen sharing off camera. Yeah.
So let's go to everybody's favorite racist 9mm SMG. He says, just for the record, if Trump says he will federally ban abortion, he will lose. I don't mean he will likely lose or drop in the polls either. I mean, there will be no reason to campaign anymore. The race wouldn't be close. There would be absolutely zero reason to continue running. I know that's difficult to swallow, but it's a fact. On top of it, the turnover from red to blue in the Senate/House would be disastrous. Harris will appoint judges to overturn Roe v. Wade, and a lot more babies will die at an even later term. I'm not judging you. I used to feel exactly the same. I'd love to see a ban, but you're all truly underestimating how much women love the right to abort, and they vote. This is a campaign. This isn't policy. I had to take my blinders off too. More babies will die because of it. The only way you will see a federal abortion ban is if women don't vote. You'll either get more aborted babies or less. The options are horrible. Take emotion away from it and do simple math on your head. Do you want more babies to die or less? Well, that was well said.
What I took from there is the CNN perspective that Donald Trump's going to take women's rights away to vote.
Yeah, that's how they would cover it. That's how they would cover that tweet, right?
Since women vote and they would vote in favor of abortion, Trump is going to take away the women's right to vote.
I think it was him too, 9mm SMG. I gave him a follow after that one. I actually wasn't following him all this time. I saw him also say something along the lines of like, "This is women's Second Amendment." Like they're not parting with it, so you might as well learn to live with it and just disagree with it from the opposite end of the spectrum.
But I agree with him. Just like I said, if you were to come out and be like, yeah, there's going to be a federal ban first day in office, you'll lose, pal. That's it.
Yeah,
you'll lose.
It's gross. It really is that's the case, but I agree. I guess I will, again, side with let's prevent World War III, nuclear Armageddon, and we'll circle back on this later when we're in that place where we've talked about where these
strong men make good times.
Yes, and these insane people have lost their seat at the table, and then just a rational group of different political ideologies can debate and discuss. That's maybe when we'll come to the right one on that. Any other thoughts on this one, Cap, before we move on to the next thing?
I mean, as someone who is pro-choice, I don't care if there was a federal ban. There's only one girl that, I would have in the world that I have a say over, whether we have the baby with or not. But it is true. You mentioned how there was not in this episode, but in our private conversations, the abortion van outside the DNC.
Yeah,
I get it's a right, and I get that it is important, but this is sickening and demonic on a whole new level. That this is the way to promote the Democratic Party. Come show up and have an abortion.
Kill a child. Yeah. I mean, sometimes I roll my eyes at the Moloch Baal sacrifice, demon worship stuff. But then I see something like that, and I'm like, God damn it, maybe these motherfuckers are all right about this.
Well,
So
we'll
that's
turn
it,
you
like,
eventually.
yeah,
We'll get Garrett on here, and we'll
yeah,
bring it
I
up.
know. Yeah, that's exactly where he'd be going with this right now if he were here. Shout out to Garrett. All right, so let's move on to the next thing. Keep the pace going here. We told you we'd update you as things progress in Trump's assassination attempt, just because no one is. It's been forgotten about in most of the news whatsoever. So today, the FBI special agent in charge, he gave remarks to the media on the updates to Butler assassination attempt, blah, 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 blah. I'll read a little bit of it. Captain, chime in at any time. So since July 13, we've worked diligently towards two goals: identify the subject's motive for the attempt of assassination and determine whether he worked with any co-conspirators or conducted this attack alone. Regarding motive, extensive analysis of the subject's online search history, as well as his specific online activity, has provided us valuable insight to his mindset, but not a definitive motive. Regarding co-conspirators, to date, we have not uncovered any credible evidence indicating the subject conspired with anyone else. Let's scroll down.
Except for the
the
FBI is investigating to see if he worked with the FBI in the assassination attempt.
Yeah. All the grain of salt here, folks. But this is the Captain and I are not leading. Captain and I are not leading the investigation. We don't have the authority to do so, right? So we're reading you what has been officially posted, and we'll give you our
skip over the part. I'm sorry to interrupt you. You want to finish that?
Okay.
Don't skip over the part on how Butler PD and Secret Service right there.
Later.
Scroll up. I'll read it off up a little bit. Scope of the investigation, second line. It is not the FBI's role to investigate the actions of security posture or the responsibilities of the Secret Service or local law enforcement related to the campaign rally. Are you trying to stay monetized? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? That's the whole investigation right there. Why didn't the Secret Service do anything? Why didn't the local police department do anything? Why was that one building in plain view, 130 yards away? Scagz and I, me and you, we have shot bowling ball pins further than 130 yards. Okay, with complete accuracy. How? That's the entire investigation right there.
That's a good point. I completely glossed over that when I read this earlier today. By the way, folks, this is from the FBI's website. This was the, kind of like the minutes of their little press conference they had there. That's a great point. Like, I guess you could, like, now I'm looking at this in terms of, like, even if the FBI had nothing to do with this and they are genuinely trying to do this investigation and figure out what happened here without any ulterior nefarious motives. Let's say they're
in a perfect world,
in a perfect world, and they're just doing their job as honestly as possible. They want to get to the bottom of this. They can't, right? Because they can't investigate the other, law enforcement people that are involved on the day. I guess their logic is going to be that the Secret Service has to do its own investigation of itself, and local law enforcement would have to do its own in-house investigation of themselves. So they can't even if they were trying to do this the right way and one of these organizations outside of them had something to do with it, then they can't even get to the bottom of it because they can't investigate them.
I mean, we can't even question. So you put all the DEI pics on his detail that day. That one woman
that can't
was
be
cowering. That one woman was cowering behind Trump and couldn't even holster her weapon. And then the next day when Trump shows up, he has half the WWE locker room walking him out to his speech. This is stuff that we need to be looking at.
Right, like, why were these decisions made?
Yes, the police were told by people in the crowd, there's a man on that roof with a gun.
Right. Why didn't the police take action? Yeah. Why didn't those Secret Service members take action? Theoretically, this is admitting that they can't investigate any of those questions.
Yeah. If I went outside my building right now and down the street, I'd probably find a police officer. If I said there was a man in my lobby with a gun, do you think they would say, all right, tough titties, bitch, and just drive away?
Security there. They'll have to be the ones to figure it out. Yeah, it's ridiculous. It really is. That's a great point, Cap. I completely glossed over that one. And went on to these other points here, which I'll read. So the searches, so they did analysis of searches conducted between 2019 and 2024, providing extensive insight to the subject's mindset and research he conducted in preparation for the attack. In late September 2023, an account connected to the subject was used to search the former president's campaign schedule and upcoming appearances in Pennsylvania. Next, from April of 2024 through July 12th, the subject searched campaign events for both former President Donald Trump and President Joe Biden, including events scheduled to take place in Western Pennsylvania. Now you're starting to really like stretch what I'm willing to even entertain believing. So on July 6th, the subject registered to attend the rally, and that same day he specifically searched for how far was Oswald from Kennedy? Where will Trump speak from at Butler Farm Show? Butler Farm Show podium and Butler Farm Show photos. So, I mean, man, that's just so convenient. They could also reinforce the narrative that, Lee Harvey Oswald shot JFK in this. How far was Oswald from Kennedy? Like, yeah, come on, it's just so convenient. At the same time where RFK is being appointed to, or is being in discussions over a commission on investigating his uncle's, come on.
Yeah.
Searches for Biden and Trump. In 30 days prior to attack, the subject conducted more than 60 searches related to President Biden and President Trump. Again, he was also trying to search for President Biden. They're trying to insinuate that he was also looking to, possibly make a shot at President Biden as well. That reinforces the narrative that there was no, that this wasn't them, right? He was he wanted to assassinate everyone equally. It wasn't a grudge.
Yeah. He out of everybody in Congress, he was the only moderate one.
Yeah. Searches related to IEDs, improvised explosive devices like, terrorists have used. And,
I didn't hear nothing about bombs that day, but yet here they are, explosives.
Yeah.
Here's my next favorite part. Address it. Scroll just up or down a little bit. Other way. Yeah. Addressing incorrect reporting. Boy, the FBI covering up disinformation. Let's see. The encrypted email account. Fair. That could be, the media. He had an overseas account that they couldn't hack.
Well, that was one of the main. That was one of the main, narratives that came out originally. That he had 3 overseas encrypted accounts.
I think that was more media based than FBI. I might not have a lot of faith in the FBI, but I have faith that the FBI could turn off my phone right now if I asked them politely. You know what I mean? So I'm pretty sure an overseas encrypted account does not stand up to FBI technology.
So to those that are listening, it says, first, regarding the subject's use of overseas encrypted email accounts, we understand these accounts were encrypted. However, the level of encryption was no more sophisticated than any standard widely used internet-based email service. So like our Gmail account. I guess the
Yahoo,
same amount of with not anything special on it. We've successfully accessed the information from these accounts and appropriately analyzed their content. However, we continue to identify and exploit the subject's accounts. And anything else on that, Cap?
No.
Yeah, so that's they're essentially saying the whole encrypted email account thing is nothing.
Yeah.
Or at least that they're not adding anything else to it.
And this was all boring. Cleaning the location.
They are in a sense, trying to take on a couple of the conspiracy theory narratives around this release of the guy's body. They're saying they clarify the process undertaken to release the guy's body to his family. It is boring. I mean, if you want to read it, just go to FBI.gov. It's on there. Autopsy toxicology reports that he did die of a single gunshot wound to the head. Interviews of the first responders on the night of the incident. So they say that they did interview a bunch of they say that they did interview a bunch of police officers, although that actually kind of contradicts what you were pointing out earlier, that they can't investigate anything regarding law enforcement or Secret Service. They also note how they actually, let's read this. So we had no reason or intention to hold or detain any first responder, as the law enforcement community assembled in Butler was actively responding to public safety risks and assisting with investigative activity throughout the night. The FBI appreciates its monumental local law enforcement response that lasted hours after the attack and continues to this day. Our priorities that night, as shared by local law enforcement, were to secure the scene, preserve evidence, and ensure public safety. They go on to say that they actually interviewed Trump himself and that he cooperated and asked questions.
I'm surprised they didn't try and kill him during the interview.
Yeah.
We missed you once, not this time.
They also give an official timeline, which I'm not going to read here. It's going to take up too much time. I don't want to waste too much time on it, but it's on there. The FBI continues to work diligently to determine the subject's motive. We believe the subject engaged in detailed attack planning well in advance of the campaign rally. We continue to pursue all investigative leads to determine any possible links to co-conspirators. The American people deserves answers, and the FBI stands committed to providing them. Highly doubt that.
Yeah.
Moral of the story is they've given us nothing.
Yep.
No narrative, no information, nothing beyond the fact that they're looking into it still. And they've debunked a couple things as well that people were leaning into before, but nothing. It's been over a month, and they have nothing to show for it. After all this time, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the one thing that these people are supposed to be specialists in, have nothing to share after all this time on an assassination attempt on the former president. Come on, man! Come on, man!
I mean, go find your nearest conspiracy theory friend and give them a hug and shake their hand and tell them they were right.
Yep.
They got the laziest people on this investigation.
It was them. I'm sorry, man. It'll just be. I don't have to beat around the bush. We've said this a million times. It was them. Them. They created the space. They allowed it to happen, and now they're trying to run out the clock with all these cockamamie nonsense. It's not even a cockamamie. They're not even like giving you any crazy explanations now. They're just giving you nothing, and they're hoping people will forget about it if they just keep it out of the news.
And they will. They will.
Yeah.
They will. I mean, somebody had said that they started calling Trump and JD Vance weird because they had to tone down the violent rhetoric towards
Trump.
Towards
call
Trump.
them Nazis anymore. So they're just weird.
Yeah,
they're weird Nazis.
So a little side question for you here. I've been seeing on some of the conspiracy people that I follow's pages that there could possibly be a false flag. See, this would just show how one-sided it is now that I'm saying it out loud for the first time instead of just reading it. What do you think of a potential assassination attempt on Kamala Harris? And no, YouTube, we're not condoning this. We're not planning it.
Beat him at the ballot box.
What?
Yeah, beat him at the ballot box.
Yes.
Not by any of these crazy
right.
things. Yeah.
Right. What do you think about that? I mean, to gain some sympathy votes.
I mean, they are willing to erase Gaza and possibly threaten us with nuclear war, kill 500,000 people in Iraq, call all of us domestic terrorists. Yeah, sure. They'd fake an assassination attempt on themselves.
Yeah.
Why not? Yeah, it would in a sense even it'd be an extreme to go to, but it would even the narrative points in their favor, I guess you could say.
Right, and it would show that when one of theirs gets attacked, it's a 16-month long, pity party on TV where a week later, this guy's weird. Look at that weird thing on his ear.
Yeah, I don't think it'll happen. I do think that one is too hot of a thing to now try again.
Mm-hmm.
They probably just try it again on Trump, to be honest with you, before they did that.
Yeah.
That'd be more up their alley, to be honest with you. Okay, let's move on to our last topic here. Try and wrap this up in an orderly fashion this week here, folks. So Mark Zuckerberg made some comments recently, and he also put out a letter to the. Oh my goodness, this is so small. Damn you!
That's what I see when you put up my tweets to read.
Of course, when I zoom into it, doesn't do anything. Damn it! I can't even read this from how far. I'm gonna have to go over to my TV and
just
read
pull it up on your phone.
Oh yeah, you're right. Good call. But anyway, I'll read the tweet first. It says Mark Zuckerberg just admitted three things. The Biden-Harris administration pressured Facebook to censor Americans. Facebook censored Americans. And Facebook throttled the Hunter Biden laptop story. Big win for free speech. This is coming from the House Judiciary, which is ironic. What win for free speech on paper? What was this? It's something everyone knew already.
Yeah.
To an extent, we're getting confirmation of it. But they're the ones who should be doing something about this. They'll probably just end up sending a strongly worded letter or something like that.
See, that's the problem I have with all this. Is this not considered treasonous or election interference by any stretch of the matter? Zuckerberg should be going to jail.
Yeah, in my opinion. We'll get into that maybe in the next part, but I got it here. So it says, so he sends this letter. It's from Meta, August 26th, to Jim Jordan, the chair of the Judiciary Committee on the Judiciary. And he says, I appreciate the committee's interest in content moderation on online platforms. As you're aware, Meta has produced thousands of documents as part of your investigation and made a dozen employees available for transcribed interviews, further to our cooperation with your investigation. I welcome the opportunity to share what I've taken away from the process. There's a lot of talk right now about around how the U.S. government interacts with companies like Meta, and I want to be clear about our position. Our platforms are for everyone. We're about promoting speech and helping people connect in a safe and secure way. As part of this, we regularly hear from governments around the world and others with various concerns around public discourse and public safety. In 2021, senior officials from the Biden administration, including the White House, repeatedly pressured our teams for months to censor certain COVID-19 content, including humor and satire, and expressed a lot of frustration with our teams when we didn't agree. Ultimately, it was our decision whether or not to take content down, and we own our decisions, including COVID-19 related changes we made to our enforcement in the wake of this pressure. I believe the government pressure was wrong, and I regret that we were not more outspoken about it. I also think that we made some choices that, with the benefit of hindsight and new information, we wouldn't make today. Like I said to our teams at the time, I feel strongly that we should not compromise our content standards due to pressure from any administration in either direction. And we're ready to push back if something like this happens again. In a separate situation, the FBI warned us about a potential Russian disinformation operation about Biden and Biden family and the Burisma in the lead up to the 2020 election. That fall, when we saw a New York Post story reporting on corruption allegations involving then Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden's family, we sent that story to fact checkers for review and temporarily demoted it while waiting for a reply. It's since been made clear that the reporting was not Russian disinformation, and in retrospect, we shouldn't have demoted the story. We've changed our policies and processes to make sure this doesn't happen again. For instance, we no longer temporarily demote things in the U.S. while waiting for fact checkers. Apart from content moderation, I want to address the contributions I made during the last presidential cycle to support electoral infrastructure. The idea here was to make sure local election jurisdictions across the country had the resources they needed to help people vote safely during a global pandemic. I made these contributions through the Chan Zuckerberg initiative. They were designed to be nonpartisan and spread across urban, rural, and suburban communities. Still, despite the analysis I've seen showing otherwise, I know that some people believe this work benefited one party over the other. My goal is to be neutral and not play a role one way or another, or to even appear to be playing a role. So I don't plan on making a similar contribution this cycle. Respectfully, Mark Zuckerberg. So not only is he saying they were wrong, they regret what they did, they think the government was wrong to do it as well. He's now also saying that he won't be, contributing any money to the election cycle at all as well, which I believe last time around he did like $400 million. Yep. So boy, go ahead. He is really, man. This is something. This is not nothing, folks. Okay. No. This is a big statement from a very powerful dude who has a lot of money, one of the richest people in the world, played a huge role in the last election, and he is singing a different tune publicly, not just privately. This isn't the first time he's said something like this either. When he was on Rogan, like maybe a year ago, he did kind of echo some similar sentiments to Joe Rogan himself about the Hunter Biden laptop story. So it's something. It really is.
He straight up says that we shouldn't have folded to government pressures, but you did. You did, though. You happily did it. And look at what happened with the 2020 election. Maybe if this information was suppressed, January 6th would have never happened. The worst day since the Civil War and 9/11 and all that stuff.
Right, by their logic, right? Like people wouldn't have been frustrated.
I think, and I call complete bullshit that he's trying to be neutral and not favor one party over the other, because you could spread disinformation all you want about, you could sit there and call Trump a Nazi, but if you call Joe Biden out for something, you get, your fact checker flagged. It was all, biased. It was all in favor of one party. Mark Zuckerberg interfered in an election. He should be going to prison. And he even lied in this letter to Congress. They even suppressed information about COVID. This is all stuff that me and you have gotten, and all our friends in the podcast industry have gotten in trouble for. And now here we are, years later, once again admitting to it, and no justice will be served. But yet we still suffer the consequences for it.
Yeah, in a way, yeah, right? Like when we, we make the joke all the time every time we have other people on. Like, when did you start your podcast? 2020, right? Well, most people didn't either started right around when COVID began or right before, and it handicapped a lot of people's career in the podcast world or just on social media in general. If you're a commentator, a content creator, whatever. So he, in a sense, not just Trump and Republicans or whatever, he injured a lot of people's career on the internet. People trying to make careers on the internet. Now, with all that being said, I don't disagree. There should be some accountability here to have for Mark Zuckerberg, but by golly, that is more honesty and acknowledgement that I've seen come out of anyone from the COVID regime. Days. Like, at least he's saying he was wrong, and he's saying he won't do it again, and he's apologized. Could you imagine Dr. Fauci saying something like this about what he did
we'd have
during
to
COVID?
Light a few fires.
This is the most we're getting. It's a positive, right? It's better than nothing. And it's something to be said as opposed to what other guys from this time have behaved since then.
Yeah.
I want to kind of get into the why now and float something out
is there
in front of you. So
go ahead. I won't say
why
anything.
now? Why now is Mark Zuckerberg deciding to kind of say these things now? Before I even saw this, my position was, man, he must be scared of some sort of accountability that might be coming in the next couple of years.
Whistleblower or something here.
Something. Maybe he's scared of Trump winning the election, and then investigations, accountability, maybe jail time, like you were insinuating before. Who knows? So I saw this actually right before we started recording by Mario Nafal, and he's saying Trump threatens Zuckerberg with prison in his new book. In his upcoming book, Save America, Trump issues a stark warning to Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg. Trump, we are watching him closely, and if he does anything illegal this time, he will spend the rest of his life in prison, as will others who cheat in the 2024 presidential election. Trump accuses Zuckerberg of undermining him in the 2020 election, despite previously cordial relations. Blah, blah, blah. As this comes to Zuckerberg, recently apologized, et cetera, et cetera. So maybe there is something to that, man. Yeah. Maybe these guys are all talking behind the scenes. Maybe not them directly, but people from one camp.
Zuckerberg has access to that camp, stuff. Yeah.
Right, man. Maybe they fucking sent a signal to Zuckerberg like, hey, buddy, we're fucking serious. If you fuck around in this election this time, we're going to be one of the first. You'll be one of the first. We will investigate you for real. Not these fake, phony regime investigations that they do nowadays. No, a real investigation. And there will be consequences if you broke the law. And Jesus, I hope so. Please, I hope this is what the Trump admin's doing behind the scenes. And they're just putting on the show of we're moderates. We're the old '90s Democrats. Essentially, I hope that really is all shown behind the scenes. They are threatening these regime puppets. With if you don't do the right thing going forward, we're going to get accountability for you all in the next 4 years.
I hope so, because I really believe in a matter like this. This was it's long forgotten, but the Twitter files were monumental. And I wish they were still coming out today. And we need Facebook files. We need YouTube files.
We need Facebook files in a sense. He's just admitting it.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I think, in Zuckerberg's position and who he has surrounding him and the money and power that he has and this platform at his fingertips, he has very deep on the inside track of what's going on behind the scenes. And, I don't want to give Q credit because I know you hate talking about it, but they always talked about, watch the resignations, watch the people coming out, in situations like this, because they know shit's coming and a storm's coming and they're getting out of Dodge. And I feel like that's exactly what he's doing.
Maybe, man. Maybe. I think we'll end this topic with one more note, just in case if you're wondering what the Harris administration position is going to be on this. From John LaFarver, he says, the Zuckerberg story is big. The White House pressured Meta to illegally censor factual information. Even bigger, the person responsible for this was the former director of digital strategy, Rob Flaherty. He's now Kamala's deputy campaign manager. And there's an email here posted of interactions between Flaherty and Facebook censoring information around COVID-19. So if you're wondering what the Harris administration is going to do, the person in charge of all this, back and forth with Meta, is like one of her top people in her administration. Yep. So there you go. More dystopian nightmare America.
And to call Kamala a hypocrite, because that's what we love to do here on this show, she was furious that Elon came out in support of Trump, donated to him, and gave him space to talk on Twitter. Meanwhile, she directly had a hand in forcing Facebook to censor the First Amendment.
Yeah. I also didn't see any outrage from her when Zuckerberg, invested that $400 million in the election process or whatever you claimed it was, right? All right, let's move on to tweets of the week. Captain, I always have to ask you, are there any videos involved in this tweet?
No. They're all tweets.
Okay, good. What's going on?
Excuse me.
Oh, okay. This is my first one and is from Politico. Strap in for this one. It's Politico. They say, our corrupt leadership. Vance tries to tether Harris to Biden during Michigan rally. So JD Vance is in a rally, and he references our corrupt leadership. They frame it as Vance tries to tether Harris to Biden during Michigan rally.
So are they admitting
vice president? Right now, they are tethered together. It's a perfectly fine quote or saying to make. They are our leadership right now. They're the regime stenographer is here, and the corporate press and Kamala Harris are trying to make everyone forget that she's actively vice president and has been for 4 years, to the point where they're saying, tries to tether Harris to Biden. Jesus.
So are they admitting that Biden is corrupt then?
Right, in a sense, and then mission by accident almost.
I gotta say, the most wild thing is the psyop of trying to convince people that Kamala Harris is not yet in office.
It's crazy. Yeah, you're always gonna find Michael Malice in the creeping in the tweets here. I knew the corporate press was shameless, but I didn't realize that they were this stupid. Anything that has to do with the corporate press, you're always gonna find Malice. So that
they are the dumbest of the dumb. All right, this is a picture from Being Libertarian. It's the first time Hulk Hogan and Macho Man shook hands and created the Mega Powers, but now we have the MAGA Powers, Kennedy supporters and Trumpsters shaking hands for the first time. Oh, yeah.
There you go. Yeah, that's interesting. That's interesting given the next couple months where we're going. All right, my next tweet is from Bill Kristol, one of the worst neocons to ever exist. And Bill Kristol says, the Trump-Kennedy pact occurs on the 85th anniversary of the signing of the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact between the Soviet Union and Nazi Germany. So one of the worst neocons ever, one of the architects of the wars in Iraq, Kosovo, all the worst foreign adventure blunders America has done the past 20 years, is trying to compare Trump and Kennedy joining forces to the agreement between Hitler and Stalin before they ended up going to war later, where they were first allies and they both invaded Poland at the beginning of World War. So first of all, a couple of things. It's a Hitler-Stalin comparison. At least finally there's a Stalin comparison being made. Second of all, it's not even anywhere near real life. And then lastly, everything is World War II with these people. Yeah. Anyone who's linked to the military-industrial complex, the neocons, every single thing is a World War II comparison to them. Everything.
Because they had an actual bad guy in World War II. It almost makes me wonder if Hitler was the bad guy. And yes, everybody, before you lose your mind, I know he was the bad guy. But, it's because Hitler was the bad guy that they have to reference and make everything about World War II again. Meanwhile, we're on the brink of World War III, and we're worried about abortion.
I don't know if it's Dave Smith or Tucker had a take on that. It's like the mythology behind the military-industrial complex. That's why they reference it all the time. Like you're saying, it's like the one time they had a really good story and they had such bad, evil people to fight. Yeah. It's like the inception point for the military-industrial. It's like their Bible in a sense. Yeah. They just go back to the Bible.
Because of this one guy, 70 years, 90 years ago.
80 years ago. Yeah,
80 years ago. Because of one guy 80 years ago, we're allowed to do whatever we want. Okay, guys?
And also,
Okay?
every other scenario that happens from now on is that scenario.
Yes.
The people, the Hamas in Gaza, they're Nazi Germany and Hitler. Like, that's an outrageous comparison. They're a gang with nothing, and Israel is the superior technological power next door. But somehow the Hamas guys are Nazi
the cavemen,
and all of Western civilization is at risk of being overthrown by Hamas. Like, pick one. Putin's Nazi Germany. Everyone, Saddam was Nazi Germany. Iran is Nazi Germany. They're all Nazi Germany. We're Nazi Germany. Me and Captain.
This show is Nazi Germany.
Yeah, everything. It's crazy. All right, let's keep going here, folks. Sorry, but
Doom Nation's actually located in Germany.
In Nazi Germany.
Yeah. All right, this is from Rep. Jeffries, Hakeem Jeffries, a real truthful statement here. Why are extreme MAGA Republicans plotting to shut down the government? They want us to implement Trump's Project 2025. We will never bend the knee to this crowd. The only truthful thing he said in that entire tweet was, we will never bend the knee to this crowd. And I would be a much more proud Republican if they actually were trying to shut down the government. I'm in favor of that.
Stop making them sound more based than they are. They're not trying to shut down the government. That would be awesome. Shout out to Bodega Cat 11. He said, "What's good, Doom Nation? Let's get a Last Slice podcast. 2 Doom Men crossover going, boys. Come on. How many times I got to text everybody trying to remind you folks? Let's do it." All right. My last tweet, and then Captain, you got a couple. You did some work this week. My last tweet is from Revolutionary Blackout Network. He says,
I like that name.
Yeah, he's a socialist guy, but he's one of the good principled ones that I follow, and I like his takes sometimes on war, especially. He says, if Donald Trump was president, the same liberals covering their ears and attacking the protesters would be joining the protesters in order to resist Trump. Liberals would be calling for genocide, would be calling him genocide Don and everything. But since we have a Democrat in charge, instead they are hostile to anti-genocide protesters to support their dear leader. This dynamic is exactly why Democrats are the most effective evil. Republicans don't have shit on them, right? It's a great point.
That is top tier information, people. That is a great way. Like, you know, we have this podcast and we call out hypocrisy and corruption, and that is put to the T of, like, you could apply that science to any other topic that the machine is cranking out. And that's why things are the way they are.
Yeah. And if you watched a lot of the videos back from last week at the DNC, like the pro-Palestine protesters, they got shit on. In the DNC, they got like swung at by a couple of like the Democratic liberal people in the audience. Outside, cops got unleashed on them. So again, I know Republicans want to spin them all as the same thing. That Kamala is a pro-Hamas, whatever. She's not, right? She's pro-war, pro-neocon, all that shit. There are still good leftists out there like that understand that and are willing to point that out. All right. Bodega Cat says, I'll drive to you right now. Don't play. All right. We're not going to do it right now, but let's plan Last Slice 2 Doom Men crossover soon.
Just text back.
Trill and Chris. Send a carrier pigeon to Trill and Chris. That's usually the most efficient form of communication when it comes to those.
You know what? We're just going to have to crash their live stream.
Yeah, we might have to. Yeah, that might be the move there, Cap.
All right. The third one. This is a picture from AKA, but truth. Remember, a prostitute will tell you whatever you want to hear as long as you pay her. And it's a picture of Kamala Harris. And boys and girls, that's exactly what she is. She's, pro-war, pro-wall, no tips, no tax on tips, none of her own original policies.
Will throw people in prison when she was younger to benefit her career. Then later on, she'll bail them out when they were rioting in favor of Black Lives Matter, right? Like yes, that's a great. I know Trump and them have been calling her a communist. Yeah. Like there's some communist aspects of things she's tried to do, of course. But yeah, I think prostitute is much more
sitting.
Term. Like she's for sale, and for the sale is like whatever will give her power.
Yeah.
Or her and her crony group of people and the deep state. She's a perfect person to be like the figurehead of a system like that.
Someone who has flip-flopped as much as she has and avoided the public, avoided the press the way she has. It's because the press ain't paying her to say anything.
Yeah, no way this one's getting monetized now, Cap, after we're calling Kamala Harris a prostitute.
Oh, well.
It's your last one.
Another one from Being Libertarian. Switzerland has a stunningly high rate of gun ownership. Here's why they don't have mass shootings. They don't have the CIA or the FBI.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
This one gave me a good chuckle earlier.
Yeah, it's funny. And they have a very similar gun culture to America. Like, if you ever see any, I've seen videos of their gun culture over there, and like,
are they allowed to carry guns?
Yeah, and like they believe in like safety, responsible ownership.
Most
Everything
gun
that like
owners
the
do.
best people you've seen in America in terms of gun culture, Cap, like at the range and stuff like that. They all share similar things in that regard, but they don't have any of the mass shootings and stuff like that over there, right? So yeah, it's a good point. Let's wrap it up.
All right, Doom Nation. That's been another episode. Skaggs, any final words?
That's it. See us on the 10th at 8:50.
Is that next week?
No, that's I think 2 weeks.
So,
a week and a half. From
so
now.
we will
the 10th, 8:50 p.m. Eastern time. The debate starts at 9 o'clock. Don't watch it on the Bastards channels. Watch it on Two Doom Men, YouTube, Kick, Twitch, X on my account, Scagz89. All those places, and then we'll put it up in full on the audio the next day.
Yes, we will. So make sure you are there on Tuesday the 10th. We will be back next week with another episode before we cover the debate. So we will see you guys next week. As always, make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Adios.